The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. Still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, the group would just jump in and help out. So it was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
We are the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, HVERI for short. A lot of people know us from the 2018 eruption of Kilauea in the Lower East Rift Zone. Working under Hawaii Tracker on the Facebook group. Since then, we've been trying to carry on and take the lessons, the hard lessons that were learned during that eruption and try and prepare for the next major disaster that comes to our island.
Yeah, so we do that through two different programs. One is volcano education, and the other part is digital resilience, which we address through online groups on social media. So the way the two programs work together is that the social media networks end up being a distribution pathway for all the information. And having that network in place means we can provide more than just volcano education, but any other preparedness information as well.
What we were working for really came about in the Mauna Loa eruption in 2022. Within hours of that eruption starting, we had the mayor, Mitch Roth, we had USGS HVO Ken Hahn on the stream trying to help flush out a little bit of the ongoing because it's so new. It's completely different from our previous major eruption, which was 2018.
One of the things that Talmadge and I were talking about was how do we deal with social media? It was something we needed to figure out and get right. Our job is to get information to the public and make sure that the public get it as well as possible and as correctly as possible. When Philip and Dan started coming to and live streaming the meetings, it was great because we were reaching more people than we normally would. So when the eruption actually happened, we had this relationship. The interviews we did during the eruption, the most fun ones were the ones with Philip and Dave because they were more relaxed and we knew we were getting to the local community and people were asking questions. So those were the best, I think. I just want to really give a shout out to those guys and how we worked as a team on this eruption. It really worked out well and we got to a lot of people we wouldn't have normally gotten.
Aloha, everyone. I'm geologist Philip Ong, here with Mr. Dane DuPont, over here today, from the nonprofit HVERI, Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute. Today is Thursday, January 30th, 2025. Kilauea has erupted 2 more episodes in the last week, so we'll cover that. And as we speak, just up top, I'll just mention that the island is currently undergoing some power outages and internet outages, and so we're doing what we can to come to you guys today, but we may have a couple funky things going on here. So how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, you know, just trying to stay dry, keep the power on, stuff like that. Right now I just got a notification that an emergency proclamation has been signed by the mayor for the severe weather that we're having now and the high winds that are expected through Friday. So if you are on the island, he's recommending that try and stay off the roads. There are some emergency shelters that are open, including Waimea Community Center, Na'alehu Community Center, Robert N. Herc's Gym, Yano Hall, Kekua o Kalani Gym, Keau Armory, and the Pahoa Neighborhood Facility. So just throwing that out there. That's not what our update is about today, but with this all going on, figure it worth just mentioning at the top.
Yeah, and mahalo as always to our ASL interpreters, Carrie and Dano. Yeah, will be with us as we navigate tonight. All right, so we'll get through it, Dane. What else you got?
Yeah, we just are on standby. Power goes out. One of us drops off. You know why? The power is very fluctuate. There's a lot of fluctuation today. We've seen outages in many areas. So if we drop offline, no surprise. We should be decent.
Yeah, and I may be freezing a little bit too, or stuttering, and I'm doing what I can over here. So let's see how far we get here. So let's get set up for our summary. And get our screen rearranged here. And all right. Hello, everyone. This is our Hawaiian Volcano summary for January 30th, 2025. Just over 1 week ago, the 5th episode of Kilauea Summit Eruption started on Wednesday, the 22nd of January, and lasted about 14 hours until Thursday, the 23rd. And within the last 7 days, we've had episodes 6 and 7 both pop up as well. Episode 6 lasted about 13 hours, and episode 7 about 16 hours. And the first of those pairs, the 6th, went from Saturday, the 25th, or Friday the 24th to Saturday the 25th. And the 7th episode went from Monday the 27th to Tuesday the 28th. And as it currently stands, the USGS is putting out that the next episode could occur within the next 1 to 4 days. So as soon as tomorrow, the 31st, or into the first few days of February. So that's the current status of what's happening. You guys saw a clip here of the reactivation of the south vent and the north vent during episode 1, the latest episode of Eruption on a volcano. But all 3 episodes together, here's episode 5, where you see just the north vent activated. And after about a day and a half of pause, it reactivates for episode 6, once again, just a north vent. And episode 7 activates both of the north and south vents, with the southern vent having been mostly inactive prior to this. So that's the view of the vents themselves. The USGS has released this time-lapse image taken from the west rim, episode 7 once again, and you see the vents starting to put out lava flows across a crater floor. Each of these last 3 episodes has covered about half of the crater floor of Halemaʻumaʻu, and it does so in these series of perched areas, right? It's almost like a perched pond here, and you see rapids that spill over into the next one, that spill over into the next one, and so on and so forth, as the lava spreads from the vent across the crater floor. You do also see these glowing spots further afield, farther away from the vent across the crater floor. And it seems that there are still some ooze-up flows occurring around the perimeter, as well as lava injecting below the crust in some of these areas. And to see this most easily, it'll take you to the B2 camera. And this is just a clip that comes from the afternoon of the 27th to the beginning of the 28th. So you see that first jump is artificial, but then you see how the flow actually moves from close to the vent towards this closer area, even injecting and causing cracking from below in the recent lava flows. So that's what's happening on the crater floor, it's all contained within the same area, the southwest part of the summit caldera within Halemaʻumaʻu, and tracked by the ground tilt on the volcano. So this is the last week of ground tilt, and so you see the pressurization of the volcano building up to the start of episode 6. When episode 6 starts, that relieves that pressure for that duration, and then begins to recharge in between episodes 6 and 7. And about when you reach the same pressure threshold as episode 5 here, from 5 to 6, we see episode 7 begin. But it goes longer and relieves more pressure than before, and it's building up over a longer interval thus far. So here's the rate the USGS is predicting for 1 to 4 days to reach the threshold and reactivate once again. So those last 2 episodes fit in the last pattern of the month here: 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3. So you can see that the last few have been overall smaller than the previous set of fountaining episodes as far as the depth of relief of pressure underground. Earthquakes have been fairly low in the background in the south flank, and not much else happening across the volcano. The major impact now has been the VOG, because during each of these episode bursts, there's a big emission of gas, which is flying with our variable and Kona winds across many communities island-wide. Here is a forecast currently, as we state today, at about 1,000 tons per day during the pause, with no episode fountaining at present, but the winds blowing strongly from the southwest and the south, bring anything that comes out to the north here. So if the volcano does reactivate, that is something to watch, is these strong winds. And there have been VOG impacts in the last few days. This is a capture from the satellite from this past week, just to show. Yeah, so that is Kilauea, and Mauna Loa remains quiet with very few earthquakes at its summit, very few earthquake counts compared to the buildup to the 2022 eruption, and still in that post-eruption phase of recharge, where we see the volcano still very slowly and steadily rising elevation as it fills with magma below. And that's our Hawaiian volcano summary for this week. All right, so let's dig into the volcanic hazard a little more, and that is the gas and the VOG today. So as usual, we'll turn to the VMAP, VOG Measurement and Prediction Project from University of Hawaii, Manoa. And the dashboard, as we showed you guys, looks like this. Okay, so it's blowing pretty strong to the south, from the southwest and the south. And we can go to some of the impact maps looking at the actual hazards here. Let's click some buttons like last week and get some numbers on the screen here. So this is the State of Hawaii Air Quality Data site, and it's showing green value.
We might have lost him.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. There it is.
All right.
Slight
So
pause.
yeah. All right. Slight pause. Yeah, I made it through the summary at least, then without pausing. So yeah, I was just saying that this map doesn't show just volcanic gas, but it can pick up any particulates. With this much wind, you might have some dust and other particles blowing to catch measurements here as well. But overall, the winds are really clearing out the VOG that was here before. Here's purple air, which shows a lot lower numbers than we saw last week overall, although very few zeros from all the wind blowing around. And windy, we can see here what's going on with this Kona low to our north, pulling all this weather across the islands here. And we have this southwest, all of it can remote all to the northeast. I must have cut out again.
Not that bad.
Sentences. The VOG is blowing to the northeast.
It was close to being understandable. It really was.
Yeah, so there is VOG going to the northeast, Kona low up here in this area, and yeah, a lot of VOG out there blowing out over the ocean. Our Mounts project is capturing these satellite images so we can see some of these snapshots of SO2 over certain days. As these episodes are lasting basically 1 day each, you're getting snapshots of when the VOG is actually caught on a satellite on certain days, and then not as much in the days in between. So here you can see the impact going back for the last 2 weeks or so, flashing on the screen.
And while Phil is frozen, I'd just like to mention that also right now the webcam up at Kilauea looking into the caldera is completely whited out. You can't see anything at all. And also hearing reports that up at the summit the gas is thick again. So feels like before the previous episodes when they erupted, I'm being told. You're back, Phil.
Yeah, so yeah, extra gas, and then when it does pop back up, that's really the biggest hazard there to worry about. Yeah, so I was just mentioning here, just pulled up this Hawaiian electric outage map for Hawaii Islands to show that there are issues here happening island-wide. That's probably the bigger effect from the wind rather than anything volcanic at this point. But just to point out that if you're coming to the national park and braving conditions, despite the proclamation that was put out, or if things change later on, you can see that currently things are in a green in national park. But there are times where earlier overnight or earlier this morning, as the winds change, we did have sulfur dioxide blowing across the center for about a couple hours from just after 6.
Yeah, gas levels, in the green right now, but definitely can pop up, especially when we get the next episode that does come through. Expect those to rise again. Welcome back, Phil.
Yeah, and not working out so well here, but I'll try to get through here. So there was a VOG impact a couple hours this morning from just after 6 to just after 8. So it can happen, and watch the guidance. There are steam vents as well. So that's the hazards. Earthquakes are quiet. Let's see.
Hopefully he'll be able to come back here in a second. This Starlink is not holding out as well as we'd hoped it would. But there's the earthquake map that loaded. You can see the deep Pahala earthquake still active in the blue there. All those earthquakes that have been occurring since 2019. They go back further than that, but we've been seeing the higher occurrence of them since then.
Thanks, Dane.
Yep.
Earthquakes are pretty quiet. Here's the last 2 weeks plotted by depth. Right, not a whole lot to show or to speak of here. An earthquake map for the last 7 days showing all magnitudes across the island, of which the largest was a 3.2 in the deep Pahala zone, and everything else smaller than a 3. It's pretty quiet. Since we're having some issues here, I won't go through all the text of these notices, but the USGS has been putting out great notices daily in addition to status reports when you have an activation, onset, or a pause occurring on a volcano. So most important is the update that was issued today that states the next 1 to 4 days. And the key statement of that is down here in the analysis, where they say, episode 3 began after recovering only 3 microradians of inflationary tilt, the amount lost during episode 6. More than 7 microradians of tilt were lost in episode 7. Therefore, it may resume after about 7 microradians of tilt are recovered. So far, we've recovered 5, and the current rate is about 2 per day. So if that continues, you can see how very easily tomorrow or even tonight could be the reactivation based on that. And so that's the most important thing here. And otherwise, there's plenty of information going out. It's all being posted across our channels as well. So you can check the text of those there as well. And so we'll go to our monitoring signals. And a lot of these are starting to show some noise from the current weather, such as here in our crater elevation. We mentioned how the earthquake counts are low. That's reflected in this weekly earthquake map as well. And you can see how we've actually gained some elevation with each of these pulses over the last month, while earthquakes have remained overall fairly steady, as you see here. One interesting thing to note is that we're noting this overall decrease in the, call it the peaks of this threshold of where the episodes were onsetting, and that's changed here for the last 3, where we now seem to be in a more stable.
Unstable, unlike the internet connection. There it is.
Am I back again? All right, so there's the tilt for the last month with all the different episodes, and that's being tracked across the other parts of the volcano as well. So what else to point out, the volcano is still extending, right? Magma is coming to the volcano and causing eruptions, but it's still spreading apart. So it's there's still quite a lot of magma coming in. And while we're seeing a little bit more stability here on the Middle East Rift by Pu'u'o, it also is not changing very significantly in either direction. The scale here, 0.01 to 0.02, whereas over here we're looking at 0.1 to 0.2, 10 times more zoomed out. So that's the monitoring signals on Kilauea. We'll move on to just mention the volcano watch for this week. Is USGS announcing their art and poetry contest winners. So here they are. Let me read the captions for these here, and we'll scroll back here. Upper left, Linda Hansen from Pahoa, a painting titled Kilauea Welcomes Christmas 2024 that won the adult division. That's up here. Yeah. In the lower left, Ka'uhai and Pahala Elementary School 11th grader Anyaza Nielsen won high school with volcanic activity depicting Mauna Loa's eruption as a thermal image right here. Upper right, Lava Flow watercolor and ink piece by Andrea Yanga, 8th grader, also at Ka'u and Pahala Elementary. This one, right there. And finally, the lower right, A Lava Pond by Milunaizara Peltier, 5th grader from Volcano School of Arts and Sciences. You can see all their names and where they attend written down here, if you care to see it. So that's the art. There was all.
And this is the conclusion of the 2025 art contest. USGS posted this back in December, and there were 60 entries into this across the different categories, doing haiku, which is on the screen now, as well as the images that you saw there that Phil highlighted.
Yeah, so you guys can see the winners here, and maybe I'll just read out some of these haiku. Lava shining bright, giving birth to Hawaii, mahalo Pele. That was the elementary school category. Middle school category. Boom, Pele is here. Her hair rises through the sky. Fiery lava flows. High school.
Oh.
All right, from California. Waves lap, sun sets on bored basalt plains of land forged by Pele's fire. In the adult haiku category, you take your shoes off when you enter someone's home, even for Pele. So that is the Volcano Watch this week, and a little bit bridging into our community, contributing and getting involved with Volcano Awareness Month, which if we'll just do an abridged community corner this week, because we're missing Lou today because he is affected by the storm and outages. We just mentioned that Volcano Awareness Month is over. They did mention in this Volcano Watch here that there is a special After Dark in the Park presentation at 7 p.m. on February 6th at the Kilauea Visitor Center. summarizing eruptions on Iceland since 2021. Right, that's what that will be. And otherwise, in our community corner, we'll just like to give our thanks to the Puna Strong grant program and Kilauea Recovery grant program with Kilauea Eruption Recovery from Hawaii County and Hawaii Community Foundation as well, right? And of course, all of you guys who are watching us live or replay, whether you have power now or you got it back since it went out, I appreciate you guys popping in and supporting us here. Dane, anything you want to add here at our midpoint?
Just like to, shout out everybody that's here on the stream today. The likes, subscriptions, the shares, all that stuff. It really does help get the channel out there, get it in front of more people so we can get the, real information out instead of the sensational, eye-catchy stuff. And I'd like to thank everybody that has donated on Hawaii Tracker, on hveri.org/donate. Right there is the link. And we also had a super chat come through from Obi-san. Wow, $100 donation came through. Obi-san says, thanks for all the hard work, guys. Appreciate the support there. Returning donator, appreciate that. Awesome. And yeah, we are a 501c3 community-based organization, so we do take tax-deductible donations. If you would be so inclined, we take those through the link I provided, but also through the super chat. So we appreciate that.
All right, thanks, Dane. So we'll mention that if we do have a reactivation happening, I can pop up in our community corner that the national park is still undergoing lots of construction and delays and closures, less parking spots. So do check the conditions with the national park if you head up there. And I'll just leave it at that for the community corner. All right, so we'll abridge things a little bit today, but before we wrap it up here, I want to show you guys some of the Kilauea observations that we have. And so we'll start with this video the USGS took of, what is this, episode 5, I believe. Oh no, this is the pause between episode 5 and episode 6. So this is overflight. You can see the south vent and the north vent there, and all the flows that have come out surrounding the area. And then when the flows recede, they leave these little chunks of little islets around. Here is the June 2023 eruption site, a little further over. This was all a down drop block that's all been covered and joined to the main caldera floor since this most recent flood of lava and on December 23rd last year. So looking further down here, you can see all this field of tephra of all the.
Definitely cool though, looking down.
This is stuff
the coloration. Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, did I cut out? Yeah, so yeah, they're looking in. They're maybe seeing a little bit of weak spatter during these pause events. They see glow, so they know magma is close to the surface. And that's why when the pressure comes back up, they expect that to really reactivate and begin a new episode each time. And lava still leaking out at the far ends of these flows as it continues to overturn and move from that big pool. So I'll show you guys a few time lapses to run it up here. So we showed you guys some of the B2 camera. And I'll do this going back to the beginning of episode 5 here. And we saw that first pop-up of a crater floor at this far end, close to the camera over here. Here comes episode 6. See a flow come through and that popping up. There's 6 and 7, in fact, there. With almost you can't quite see lava coming out of this crack, but you see the edge of the lava in the crack becoming exposed right in there too. So play this one more time. And just note this foreground and hear how this whole piece of land is rising. And I've cut out the nighttime views just to make it easier to see, which makes it a little bit jerky between, since I'm cutting out the nighttime out.
Really is cool though, the juxtaposition here, like against the back wall there. It stands out so cleanly. And we have seen these positioned on the sides of the caldera before, of course, but they're always, when the fountains are high like that, it's pretty spectacular. But as you can see here, this ooze out coming across the side. There you go.
Yeah, so we're seeing lava ooze out the side, and we're seeing the whole surface ripple as lava is moving underneath it. And I would imagine it's probably not super deep if we're seeing it ripple across a surface like that, right? Rather than pop a whole big plate up as one. So
Oh, I do not think the Starlink is performing as planned. I did do a haiku with GPT there. It was in case you missed it in chat, Starlink takes a nap. Elon tweets, oops, my bad, guys. Stars blink in dismay. That's my haiku that I made while you were lagging.
that about sums it up here, right? We're just trying to do what we can. Yeah, so the whole idea being that we're seeing the crater floor rising both through flows and getting deeper that way and popping up from below, right? That's the interesting thing to note. That's still happening and still something to track. Right, here's the further view from the B1 camera further away, so we can try to zoom into it a bit. And now I've got day and night. But what you can see is that it's mostly contained. The B2 camera is somewhere over in here, and it's looking at this part of the crater floor, and that's where we're seeing most of that change happen. But this wider view is showing us that we're not seeing that happening over here at the far end of the flows. We're just seeing more of those ooze outs continuing. So something to keep an eye on there. Maybe easier to see that in the daytime view. Let's just the daytime view here. And you see the flows moving across there. And we're too far to really see those subtle variations from this angle, but it does tell us that's fairly localized to that corner of the crater floor. A couple last time lapses here. Let's show you guys a thermal camera. Here's episode 5 on a 20-second, that first burst, and then overturning. That 1.5 day pause, covering much of that similar area. You see the ooze up flows here on the far side. And then we have episode 7 coming in.
You're good.
Yeah, so there it is. Yeah, so there was one more interesting phenomenon that occurred, which I seem to have lost it off of my feed here, but let's see if I can pull it up from one of my other channels here. But that was what happened there at the end of episode 6, about an hour after that pause of onset, where there was a video capture of the bubbling, like the whole lava lake turned over and bubbled. It happened pretty quickly. And it wasn't quite clear exactly what was happening. And the USGS mentioned a possible drain back event into the north vent, which was not quite clear from the videos. So let's see if I can get this saved here and put on a screen for you guys. All right, just a second. Where is it? Here we go. All right, so this is a capture from the V1 camera. And there's a timestamp on the 25th, and you can see all this bubbling and overturning of the lava lake and lots of steam. There had actually been a big rainstorm that came through in the hours prior to this, so it's not quite clear what happened. Hopefully the USGS will come out and say more. We do have evidence of the past where we heard Matt Patrick talk about how in one of the previous versions of the lava lake in this area, there was a big rainfall event that he believes did induce some crustal overturning. So that's a possibility there, as well as something that was unseen on the camera to the rest of us, like some drain back event or something like that. So I don't have any conclusive answers for you guys. I appreciate everyone's observations out there. It's great to see that. It looks like, yeah, there's quite a bit of bubbling happening here, overturning, and this area really must have been spectacular to see. And it was right in the middle of all that rain, so maybe that had something to do with it there. And once again, I hope the USGS will come out and share some more about that. But in our larger scale time lapses, here's a KW camera back in the 22nd. There is that first foot of the crater floor for episode 5, with the ooze ups continuing for a few days. And we had a day and a half between episodes 5 and 6. And there you see that remnants glows from the flow field and from the vent as well. And then here on the 27th comes episode 7. You see covering many of those same areas, right? And you can see as the fume clears here, let's see if I can get a good frame before the rain comes in. That wasn't it. That was today. Today it's getting all rainy. We can see there's a good one, right? You can see the edges of these perch ponds. It seems like there is one there, maybe like that, next to the vent, and then another tier slightly lower, another one slightly lower, another one slightly lower there, and that's what you see when you see the lava spreading out and then cascading in those rapids. So I'll show that one more time from the beginning here. Yeah, so there's that little bit of rapid there, episode 5. And here comes episode 6 once again. There you see the spillover points there and there. And maybe most clearly seen when episode 7 comes in here. And here it is. So there's that one pad, there's the other pad, and the last pad through there, and then they all return. So the lava is piling up, and there's quite a bit of thickness through there. And it may be that that's how the lava is moving underneath that crust, is by getting into those ponded areas and filling them from below like that. The S2 camera, as we mentioned, there's that north vent activating in episode 5 just by itself. And you see some of these slump back draining features in episode 6. Similarly, when the glow continues, there is some spatter here, and you can see it intensifies, where episode 7 then reactivates it. And there it is, that full sequence from the S2. Until, just like every other camera, the rain comes in and the fog and the fume as well. So one last one here, and this is the V1 camera. This is what the live stream is looking like. So in case you're not watching a live stream all the time and you're curious what that looks like, we'll just let this play a little bit here and wrap up our visual observations of Kilauea today. Right, lots of cool little features happening second to second, minute to minute that you can't quite capture in these longer time lapses, but this gives you a little bit of an idea of what's happening there through these views when you ever have a chance to tune in during an episode. Yeah, still glowing down there. The USGS has released several sets of images of the vents inactive between episodes 5 and 6, and then again of the vent erupting in episode 7 as well. And they've been collecting samples of each episode's flows, and I imagine we'll see results of that coming out at some point. But for now, I'll just let this finish playing out as we see one of these pauses and the vent slumping, and sometimes you see the chunks fall off and stuff oozing out of the gaps. And it's just mentioned that the craters, or the cones themselves are in a range of 100 feet high, or 30 meters or so. But the fountains over the last couple episodes have been peaking close to 150 feet high, or 40 meters or so. 45 meters or so. So yeah, I've tried to, when I'm looking at this, just to make compare to the height of the cone, is it about the height of the cone that it's fountaining? Is it shooting up much higher than the rim? Is it down below it? And we've seen this pattern where as eruption wanes, the fountains decrease in size, where they start off pretty, they come on and ramp up pretty quickly, and then they tail off a little more slowly, but they do decrease in size as you approach that 12-hour, 13, 14-hour mark before the eruption stops entirely here. The episode stops, I should say, right? Because we're seeing the eruption continue with these short pauses in between each episode. All right, so that's the observations on Kilauea. And we've come current to this morning, where now we're in a era of mostly what you can see out there is a bunch of fume blowing right out to camera.
And I don't really expect much in the way of views if it were to erupt tomorrow, as maybe the data seems to indicate. But if it were, we expect similar to weather tomorrow, and you might be looking at complete steam out in terms of viewing.
Yeah, definitely stay safe out there. If the eruption happens while the weather is bad, then stay home and stay safe. Look through the webcam, which is already parked up there, streaming to us. Yeah, and I think I won't push it any more than that, Dane. I think if you have any questions or discussion that you want to bring up for us.
Didn't really see any questions while we were going. Just about, the internet and stuff like that and the connection. Just going back through. Okay, here's one. I'll go ahead. Shaka Brands asks, would you expect that this pattern of erupting and refilling to continue until something causes change, like a larger earthquake or something?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have a great answer really, but yeah, I would, until something else changes, I think we're in a pretty steady pattern, right? The one thing that gives me a little bit of pause is we did see the decreasing amplitude of the ground tilt over time, leading to that 5th episode. And we're seeing a little bit of a shortening, right? We saw this last episode broke the pattern a little bit, where it went a little bit longer and relieved more pressure than the previous two, but it's still in about the same ballpark there, right? So, and we're seeing it happen 2 in a week rather than 1. It seems to be getting a little bit shorter in between as well. And when we've seen this in the past, it usually means it's going towards some end game at some point. So I don't think it'll last forever. I think at some point you establish maybe more of a steady state flow outwards, or it comes to an end. But I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll keep fountaining in episodes for years and years and years. I think something will change before that. And it could be an earthquake. It could be the supply. It could be the plumbing system as it's injecting below the crust. Let's say it makes extra space and changes the volume, changes the calculations of how much things need to move, that kind of thing. But it should be interesting to find out. We'll be all watching it together, and there's no answers here. Just talking about what's on the table for us looking forward. And the most important thing is it's all still within a caldera, and as long as it keeps doing this, it's relieving pressure from the rift zones and buying more time for anyone living in the areas of higher risk on the volcano's flanks. So all good for now, and why we're not stressing so much about this eruption, because it is in a great place, and every time it does this, it's relieving more pressure and putting more lava in the crater, and that means it doesn't have to go anywhere else.
Right. We do have one more come across from Facebook side. Asks from Chris Colby, says, is the surface of the lava lake lifting observed from the B2 being caused by a vent under the crust erupting, or is it the weight of the new lava on the south end of the lake pushing down on one end of the lava lake, kind of like pushing down on one side of a waterbed?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think it's that when I was talking about maybe trying to figure out how deep that injection is happening, that's trying to get a little bit at this question, right? Because it's not really conclusively clear exactly what's going on. Is there a vent underneath that crust, right? Or is maybe the source that's coming underneath the north and south vents has an arm that goes into that rest of the crater, and maybe a little bit deeper, like through that kind of pathway. But I think it could also be just the lava that's ponded in the area, right? We're talking about overall, it's something like 10 meters or 30 feet in some areas, right? So that's like a lava that has a crust, but it has quite a lot of molten material in the center. So if a flow can...
Oh, looks like we froze there. Hopefully Phil will be back in a second, because I do not have the answer to this one on hand. There you go. Sorry about that. It looks like we're not the only ones having issues. It does look like the webcam of USGS might be also having technical difficulties that it's experiencing right now, along with a lot of other people on the Big Island.
yeah, maybe you won't push my luck any more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting to watch that camera, and yeah, maybe by having more good observations of what's happening there and how the pattern changes on that camera. So
yeah, we could try one more, but at this point we're kind of just risking it.
yeah. I appreciate everyone. Stay safe out there. We'll come back to our usual schedule next week.
Yep.
And yeah, anything else, Dane?
I think that's it. We appreciate everybody for tuning in today. If you're not a member of the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group, definitely check that out. It's where we do most of our sharing of information. It's a big group focused on the Big Island of Hawaii with many of the residents here that are in the group. So lots of information ends up getting shared there. And we appreciate all of our photographers that have, so graciously posted on Hawaii Tracker over the past several months, and especially since this eruption and its 7 episodes, right? So I saw Lance in the chat, so appreciate those guys.
Yeah, appreciate it, Lance. Been watching the live streams too, lurking in there when I can. And yeah, Hawaii Tracker, besides all these volcano photos, is great for times like now when we have this kind of weather pattern, right? We call that one of our digital resilience hubs here in Hawaii Island. So you can go there to share information, to receive information.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a digital hub for what we call it. It's the watering hole, and there's lots of different watering holes, but Hawaii Tracker is one of them. And if you have information or you want to get information, that's the place to go. And I can't tell if Phil is being stoic or frozen right now. I'm gonna go with frozen. Well, thanks everybody. I think that'll do it for us today. We've had some technical difficulties. We tried to get out what we could, and appreciate you all joining us.
Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Carrie and Dano. Thanks everyone for watching us, and till next week. Aloha, everyone.